Hey everyone, it is Tanya. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you are new here. Today I'm back with another speed build, and we're going to be creating a home for a bunch of artists that's made out of old shipping containers in the world of Evergreen Harbor. Basically, I wanted to create a communal living space or an artist commune, and with the addition of pottery with businesses and hobbies, I thought now was a good time to add a space like this where you could have a bunch of Sims who are all into art live together and have a lot of creative space to work with. And I decided to go with shipping containers because I loved the idea of found items being repurposed for artistic purposes. So the containers being the main space made the most sense. There's also lots of just like old items that are around this lot, and I had so much fun coming up with this concept and decorating this space. I really hope you will enjoy it. If you do and you'd like to download it for yourself, it is available right now in the Sims 4 gallery. You can find it under my EA ID, which is Gryphi, Gryphi. You could also find it under the hashtag Gryphi, and that information is in the description down below as well. And before we get any further into the video, I just wanted to let you know that there is a massive spring sale going on right now on the EA app. You can save up to 50% on select packs like Growing Together, Horse Ranch, For Rent, and more for half price. And some of the newest packs are on sale too. Love Struck is 38% off and Life and Death is 25% off. The sale is from now until March 27th, so if you've been thinking about picking anything up, now is a great time to do so. And if you do, please consider using my code Gryphi at checkout. It doesn't cost you anything extra, it's just another way to support me as a creator, as I get a 5% commission on your purchase. Thank you in advance if you decide to use my code, and thanks to EA for sponsoring this portion of the video. So this is the basic shape we're going to be going with. I started with just 4 containers stacked up here in a variety of colors, and I'm actually going to be adding a 5th one a little bit later on in the build, actually quite a bit later on, once I get to the interior and realize I wanted more space. So there will be an additional one added towards the back, but for right now we are starting to work on some landscaping. I also decided it would be cool to have a ladder to the roof so your Sims could go up there and do other activities. I ended up putting a couple of lounge chairs and some planter boxes and stuff, and I played around with this terrain so much, so you're gonna see me fiddle with it throughout the entire video, but I thought that this area up on this balcony would be a good space to put an easel and a lot of like painting equipment. There's also spilt paint all over the floor up here, and the windows I have right there are the ones from high school years where your Sims can go in and out of them, and that leads into the bedroom in this build, so your Sims can just like kind of pop out the window and work on some art. And outside has so much stuff absolutely everywhere. I'm so excited to share this. You're gonna see like old wheels and like shipping pallets and obviously easels, woodworking tables, a bunch of functional stuff, but so much decor and clutter. I just really wanted it to feel like these Sims are trying to grab as many pieces as they can to try and repurpose, and I just thought it was a really fun idea. I know years ago I built a junkyard, and it kind of reminded me of that when I was working on this because I was going for similar items, and I went to school for art. I went to art school, so all of this feels very familiar to me, all of the ideas of repurposing items, so it was just really fun. I also have this fire pit here, which came from the werewolves pack. I love how it has like some old frames in it and an old chair. I also ended up using so much wall art all over this build on the outside and the interior. I wanted it to look like they've spray painted different areas and they've tacked up different art pieces. Just lots of experimentation in that way. One thing I didn't add that I think would be a good thing to add is some of the areas for your Sims to actually use spray paint that came with City Living. Like you can paint murals and things like that. I wanted it to look like all of it was already decorated, so I didn't add any of those, but you could definitely do that. I think that would be so fun, especially on the roof. There ends up being a lot of space up there. You could probably place one of those if your Sims wanted to work on a mural up there. But you can see now I'm just grabbing all sorts of random clutter. I grabbed some pottery pieces. There is that palette I had mentioned, crates and barrels and little statues. There's just a lot of stuff all over this lot. I ended up using a ton of stuff from Debug and Shall I Edit Objects. So the yellow frame you can see off on the end actually ends up being something I use as support for one of the containers that is a little bit longer than the rest. You'll see me playing around with that a little bit later. I'm also just digging through here, getting like bigger piles of crates. I looked at so many different objects trying to figure out if I could incorporate them into this build or not. And of course I wanted to have as many functional items as possible as well. But right now I'm getting an old wheel, and I also got a car. I got this big sculpture of a head. There's a bunch of mailboxes as well. And did you see that hot air balloon? I don't think I've ever used that in a build before, but I kind of want to at some point. I'm not sure how yet. Oh, and also I added this gazebo. It's just decorative, at least how it's placed down now, but later on I do go ahead and add a platform inside there with stairs up to it, so it's functional, which I'm very excited about, and I end up having a whiteboard for a class to take place, which is like a new feature that came with businesses and hobbies. I guess it would be a lecture because I wasn't really imagining this lot was a business, but you could set it up that way and charge for classes. You're just going to need to add a ticketing kiosk here. I was more so assuming this was just a group of artists that all live together and are always teaching each other new things and working on projects together. I grabbed these debug paintings or art pieces that originally came with Lovestruck, and I moved them around quite a few times on the lot thinking I'm going to use them, but I actually don't end up in the end. So ignore those. They're just going to be floating around for a while. But here I am starting to create the platform to put under the gazebo so I could put some fake stairs or real stairs inside those stairs. So your Sims can actually walk up there and use the space. I thought it was kind of fun. So just playing around with that now and working with Tool to get it to look like it's in the right space. And then I do have to rotate it so that I could put the stairs since you can't put them on diagonals. And then just moving around some more of the plants. I have so many different plants here. I really love the low-lying pink flowers that I put around. And I'm just putting some more of the clutter and the decor around the gazebo and just moving things around as I changed where the steps were going to be. So just fiddling with that now and trying to figure out the best placement for everything so it looks functional, but it still looks kind of messy and like thrown around as the space is being actively used. I loved this little statue guy that I think he's from Cats and Dogs. He's just like a little guy in a raincoat. I thought he was adorable, so I used that, and we're playing around with some more terrain paint here. I end up deleting a lot of it, like erasing it, and using more of the stone texture that is naturally on this lot, which I thought looked so nice. So you can see me just playing around with that now and trying to perfect it throughout the entirety of this build. It does take a while, and I continue to work on it till like the last moment. And you can see right now there is actually so much empty space behind the build, and that is going to be where I add the additional shipping container. But before I get to that, I am working on the parking spots in the front of the build. I wanted to have all of them have like the concrete piece in the front that shows you where you're supposed to stop, and I also used some of those painted parking spots that came in the high school years debug. I thought that those were really cool. I know that's a thing in high schools where they have like a day that people paint their parking spots, but I didn't drive in high school. I did not have a car or a license yet. Then again, I graduated kind of at an earlier age than most people around me, but it's not an experience I had, so it'd be really interesting to know if that's something you had, and was it everyone painted their spaces, or was it more like the art students? I'd be very curious. Anyway, I have moved on now to the top of the building where I added a couple of planter boxes as well as a couple of loungers. I'm going to add a little bit more up there later on, but we are starting to move inside now to figure out our floor plan and realize that I need way more space in here, so that's going to be a process. But I quickly realized I wanted the kitchen to be over here in this corner, and I'm just grabbing some random items that I know I want to have in here, like a pottery wheel and a kiln and some of the new like decorative shelving and stuff like that. I also really wanted to use these beds from Eco Lifestyle, but I thought it would make more sense to have bunk beds since I wanted this to be a space that's primarily about creating. I didn't think having a bunch of separate bedrooms was really what I was going for, and it's just a little bit different than what I typically build, so I decided to go with a room that just has 4 beds in it in the style of bunk beds. And then down here, I am changing the layout of the kitchen to save space. And then here is the next shipping container I'm adding. I'm going to get rid of the windows in there, but this one is going to be orange, which is one of the colors I hadn't used yet. And I also ended up extending the blue one out to kind of support the bottom of that. And here's that yellow piece I had mentioned earlier. I think it worked out really nicely. And at first I do end up adding one of the like shipping container doors on the end of this, like I did on all the other builds, but I end up actually having a window there instead. And I changed my mind on which one quite a few times. I also really wanted to have toilet stalls inside this build instead of like a regular bathroom. However, the one upstairs is a little bit of a tight fit because I also wanted to make sure I had some of these individual like university showers so your Sims wouldn't have an issue with embarrassment when they wanted to shower. And I have not yet play tested this as I am doing this voiceover, but if there are issues, I'm going to change it so that the stall is not a stall, and I'll probably just have some walls around a toilet because it takes up less space. However, this bathroom, once I play around with it, does have a stall, a sink, and I believe 3 showers, but that's not the layout I have yet. And then the space next to it is going to be where I have the bedroom space. I do end up closing it off with walls a little bit later on. I just haven't done that yet. I thought it made more sense to have it closed off, as other Sims are probably going to be making a lot of noise in the rest of the space, working on pottery or painting, gemology, or candle making, or anything else. All of those fun, creative skills that are also on this floor, and I didn't want that to interrupt your Sims from getting some good sleep. I liked the idea of it being all open without the wall separating the space, but I felt like just in practice, it was not a good idea. So at first, I used some of these dividers from businesses and hobbies, which I actually ended up moving to the other side of the stair railing to kind of separate that area instead. And the easel's not going to stay there. It's actually going to be in front of the window. And this corner is where I'm going to have the candle making station, as well as the gemology table, which I'll be grabbing here shortly. And then over by the entrance to the bathroom is where I have a woodworking bench and some storage space. And then I'm trying to figure out what flooring I want to have in here. I was kind of undecided if I wanted something that looked a little bit more worn down or if I wanted something newer. And I tried a few different things, and we're actually going to be settling on a wood flooring from the Jungle Adventure Pack, which I don't have right now. I'm actually using one from Get Famous currently, which is like the, I want to call it, I think it's called stage flooring for the acting career, but I will change it here shortly. And these are base game counters that I'm using in the kitchen space. And I experimented so much in this area with like what sink I wanted. Did I want to have these tiles in here? The layout. I just was very unsure how I wanted this to come out. But I'm glad that I played around with it and figured it out, because it ends up being such a cute kitchen, and I'm really proud of how the downstairs space turns out altogether. But it did take a while, so I am trying some of these upperhead cabinets here and trying to figure out a tile. And then I grabbed this sofa from Growing Together, which really helped me to figure out the style down here, because I didn't want it to feel as messy as outside, but I still wanted it to have that like same energy or feel that the rest of the build has, with all of the different colors and kind of just like makeshift items, but kind of combined with some more stylized things. I feel like these Sims have a better idea of how they want to keep their space, and they want cute items and lots of color, but there's probably some things that they made themselves as well, and things that might not typically go together. So that was the overall idea. I also really wanted to keep most of the exterior walls to still be the container. I thought that that was really fun. I even painted the ceilings to match the color of the container it is in. So if you looked up at the ceilings and you were like standing between the two, part of the ceiling would be one color and the other part would be a different color. I don't know if that makes sense, but I did try to keep it all cohesive with the color of the exterior of each section of the building. And in the kitchen here, I am finally figuring out the tiles on the walls and on the floor and cluttering up this little shelf. I also have some like pots and stuff right next to the sink. Some have paintbrushes, some have plants. That's from businesses and hobbies. And I also wanted to hang up some aprons in this space. They could be used for cooking. They could be used for arts and crafts. There's lots of different options there. It just made a lot of sense for me to hang those up there. Plus, they're just one of my favorite items to hang in kitchens. And I also used Tool to place some of these towels right in front of the kitchen sink as well. I just used the Tool mod to make them sit on the actual counter front instead of automatically snapping to the wall, so you will have seen that. And then adding some additional cabinetry and figuring out our dining space, where I actually ended up using a picnic bench inside. I thought it was so pretty. This one is from City Living. A lot of the swatches are painted, and I decided to go with this one. I thought it was so pretty, and I didn't want everything to be super colorful in here. I thought having the accents being colorful in the walls was a better way to go, so I decided to go with a wood tone that kind of matches what I have in the kitchen. Moving back into the living room space now, I'm trying to figure out what color I want to paint this wall. I knew I wanted to have a frame TV here and also add some additional storage and some artwork, and I actually ended up deciding to put some of these record player like milk crates up here, and they fit really well into these square shelves. So that's what I ended up using, and then I grabbed this coffee table as well, which is also from Growing Together, so the couch and the coffee table are from the same pack. And I just grabbed some board games and some paintbrushes to put there, and then I was also just grabbing some other artwork that I was thinking I was going to use somewhere at some point, and just kind of throwing that in the other room. I did that a lot throughout this build. I was like, oh, I don't want to forget to use this, so let me grab it. And I thought that the light I put in this room was perfect. That one's actually from Cozy Kitch, and I thought the like salmony pink color was so pretty. I also really enjoyed adding a lot of like ripped up posters and graffiti and spray paint and things like that all throughout the interior and exterior of these containers. I just thought it looks so nice. And then here is where I added the wall and the door into the bedroom space. And we are starting to configure all of the other pieces up here to make it all functional and have a decent layout. So I do have 2 of the pottery wheels here. And then later on, there are going to be 3 more outside in that gazebo area that I kind of laid out as a classroom. And this is the layout I actually ended up going with for the bathroom. And then over here, I was really excited. I actually ended up scaling down this shelf piece from the Artist Studio kit and raising it up onto this surface in this corner. And I got a whole bunch of artwork on the walls. I also got some additional like tools that your Sims might want to use for either woodworking or jewelry crafting. That's an item from Crystal Creations. There's a rug over here. I also got a sculpture, and I just tried to make it as realistic as possible. I think having a fan is a really good idea. Some caution signs for like sharp machinery. So I grabbed that, and I'm actually going to be getting some more like painting to put onto this door here as well. I also got some like scuffs and dirt and stuff around, and I particularly used a lot of that near the pottery wheels. So you'll see that in a little while, as I thought it was realistic that you're going to have residue from clay and different glazes and things like that. So getting some of those scuffs now, and I'll be getting some like paint splatters on the floor too in a lighter color that felt like they could be clay instead of paint. So I should be grabbing those momentarily. Oh yeah, and I got some more of the like ripped up posters and stuff over on this door as well. I actually ended up using quite a few of the new pieces of artwork that came with actually, I did use some from Businesses and Hobbies, but the one I'm going to grab for the door that we were just looking at is actually from Lovestruck. I ended up using like a lizard over there, which I thought was really fun. And here is that paint splatter I had mentioned. I also grabbed some newspapers here to look like they were trying to protect the ground from paint, but it didn't quite work. I feel like this space gets really messy really quick, but I love how colorful, and to me, it just kind of feels realistic. The art spaces I've been in, especially pottery studios, they tend to be kind of messy, but they feel so, I'm not sure the word I'm looking for, but they feel correct, and like they're a space you're free to be creative in. I feel like if it was too pristine and clean, you'd be afraid to get a little bit messy in the space, and you might be holding back your full potential as far as creativity goes. I don't know if that made sense. You can let me know. Anyway, this room is pretty much coming together now. I just changed the color of our gemology table, and I got a corkboard up above it. And I think we're going to be moving on into the bedroom here shortly. I'm just getting a couple of lights in here, and yes, we are now in the bedroom. I ended up using this rug from Horse Ranch. I just really liked the colors, and I tried to create some bedside tables for both the lower and top bunks using these cube shelves from Dream Home Decorator. And I just added a little bit of clutter on each one. Everyone has a lamp, and some have some additional clutter underneath or a alarm clock. I didn't go really in depth on the personalities I thought each sim in this space would have. I just wanted to make them all slightly different and have like a couple of personal clutter items. Keep it pretty open-ended depending on what sims you might have living here. I even added a little water bottle on one of them and a mug as well. I really enjoyed like imagining that a lot of these items were created by these sims. Like this little painted mug I thought was so cute. And I ended up actually changing the wallpaper in here to be a wooden paneling instead. And I love this bookcase over in the corner. I use it a lot in artistic spaces. It is from the Discover University pack, and it looks like a locker, and it's got like stickers and stuff all over it. I just thought it was really cute. So that ends up in here. There's also some plants on the wall, imagining that they were looking to propagate some plants to potentially grow some more things on the roof. And I do forget this extra basket of clothes in the middle of the room for a while, but I did go ahead and delete that before I took screenshots. So please ignore that. And then I am going to be changing some of the art on this wall as well to some other pieces that I just thought matched the style of the room a little bit better. And that should be it for that room. And then we're going into the bathrooms to get some artwork as well as towels and mirrors, because I didn't have any of that in this space yet. I just had like the basics. So adding a little bit more personality into these spaces and fixing the tiles that I had painted the wrong colors. And then the last thing we'll be doing after this is finishing up the exterior of the build, adding some more landscaping and items around. I wanted to make sure we had a trash can so you could have your Sims dive for whatever so they can find items that they could use in their art or just sell items for money. I think dumpster diving in this game is so cool. I also added these, they're like fake porta potties out back. They allow your Sims to travel in the tunnels in the world of Moonwood Mill. However, I just thought that they looked cool here, so I put those out back, and then I am getting a little bit of fencing on the exterior of the lot. This is also debug from Moonwood Mill. I wanted some of the pieces to be broken, some of them to still be intact, and I'm going to be surrounding it with all sorts of greenery and flowers. Basically all of the plants you already saw me place all around the lot. Just trying to finalize it and make it feel cohesive. And I love landscaping. I have so much fun with it. I can definitely go overboard sometimes, but I felt like this one, it made a lot of sense for some of it to be a little bit overgrown, and I just wanted to get some rocks here. But that's pretty much it for the build. I'm going to be getting another car and some overgrown grass. I was undecided on what color I wanted the car to be. Oh, and I added a telescope up on the roof as well, so your Sims can go ahead and find some aliens if they'd like to, or just look at the stars. There's options there. Hopefully they don't get abducted, or maybe hopefully they do, depending on what you'd like. And then this is the gazebo area I had mentioned. I just placed down the whiteboard and a few of the pottery wheels with some chairs. It's pretty simple in there, but I just wanted to make sure there was a space for your Sims to give lectures on whatever skills they would like. And that is it for this build. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you give this video a big thumbs up. You can also subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more, and click that bell to be notified when I upload. And a massive thank you to my YouTube members for all of your support. If you'd like to become a member yourself, you can click the join button below the video or the link in the description. Enjoy the screenshots, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye, everyone.